David was just the sort of lad that every father would want. He'd gone through adolescence and teens with a few twitches and knocks, as all kids do, but he'd stayed on the straight and narrow. He loved sports, which I like. We played squash together regularly. He was the Greater Manchester Under-16s champion. And once or twice a month, David and I would go to the local pub and have a game of pool and have a few beers and have a chat. I was really, really pleased that he'd grown up to be a sound lad, just the sort of lad that this country needs, you know, hard-working, doesn't get into trouble, keeps his head down and gets on with it. Yeah, he was a lovely lad. We just celebrated David getting the job with The Guardian. It was his first proper grown-up adult job. I think he'd been with The Guardian only a matter of a few weeks when he was asked to come to London to take part in a particular project. I remember on the 6th of July was a Wednesday, and he came home in the evening, had to use the tube, didn't know how to use the tube because he'd never done it on his own. And of course I come to London a lot and use the tube. And I remember talking through the tube system with him and explaining and telling him what to do. I told him that at that time of the morning the trains would be full because it's rush hour. He shouldn't try and find a seat because he had an overnight bag and a briefcase. When the doors opened, I said to him, take 2 paces forward and stand still. And we know that that's exactly what he did, but the 2 paces forward put him next to Mohammed Siddiqui Khan. I was at work, hadn't listened to the radio, didn't know the attack had happened, and at lunchtime I switched my phone on, my mobile phone, and there was a voicemail message from the HR director of The Guardian explaining that David hadn't arrived and that they'd reported him missing to the police, which didn't make a lot of sense to me. And it was only when I switched the internet on, because people in the office were talking about it, that I saw what had happened. So that was Thursday. And then a police officer came to our house on Saturday to take DNA swabs, but wouldn't give us any information at all, or couldn't give us any information. And then on Monday, the police officers came again because they said they would need dental records. DNA would not be of much use. And then the following Wednesday, so it went 6:20 the following Wednesday evening, the police phoned me to confirm that David had been one of those that had died. To hear that the American judicial system praised Babar for cooperating with the police after he'd been arrested or gave himself in doesn't diminish what he did. He was directly responsible for the deaths of dozens and dozens of people, and 4.5 years is totally inappropriate. If you look at our system, for example, you get more than that for some motoring offences. Certainly you can get more than that for burglary without injuring a single person. So to be responsible for the deaths of 52 people, serve 4.5 years and be released is just, and say that means he's paid his debt to society, just beggars belief. Every time I hear that Babar's been released or he was on bail for 2 years and so has been wandering the streets of America free, in fact I hear he's now married with children himself, fills me with anger because it points to complicity with the American Secret Service in his role in Pakistan. And that suggests then that whilst Babar was running the training camps, training people to commit mass murder, that was with the full knowledge of the American Secret Service. If he was running those training camps with the knowledge of the American Secret Service, it's inconceivable he wasn't passing information of people who were attending those camps to the Americans. So that then begs the question, why didn't the Americans tell the MI5? Or if they did tell MI5, why wasn't something done?